This is the New York City FC Pregame Live. Tonight, New York City look for their second straight win against Charlotte FC. And now, here are your hosts, Glenn Crooks and Matty Lawrence.
Where are we there? There we go. Okay. We're doing a commentary.
Oh, we are? Okay.
And there's Matty. I'm Glenn. Chris is behind us. And, we'll have Mr. Moya on at halftime to ask him some questions about the stadium and his affection for Barcelona, FC Barcelona. Now, he's Ecuadorian, and you said immediately, well, there's a Barcelona in Ecuador. Yes, of course, at Guayaquil. But that's not the one, apparently.
I will go on there and say turncoat. Why not Barcelona SC of Ecuador? But I'm sure you're going to ask him, and I'm sure he will tell you.
I'm sure he will. And I just understand he's got things all over his office that are all Barcelona. But here, he'll also be watching what is a pretty huge match. I feel like we say that before every game. But indeed, New York City playing host to Charlotte FC, who they've never beaten, but New York City's coming off this 1-0 win at Montreal, first road win of the year, ends the 11-game winless streak, and now puts the unbeaten streak at 6, 5 draws, and then the win. And I don't know, the timing of it is, I think, whenever it was going to happen, you knew they were going to win another game, but it becomes part of this now unbeaten streak. Where do you feel like they've gotten a little bit better along the way during this streak?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've become more resilient. I would say it started away at Portland after the travel, after a number of players being very tired mentally and physically, and holding on for the draw there and coming away with a point. We talked about not celebrating mediocrity, but sometimes you have to celebrate a draw when you've ground it out and when you've put up with a lot of outside influences in terms of the travel, in terms of time zones, in terms of playing a game 3 days before, in terms of playing 2 games on plastic within the space of 72 hours. The likes of Chanot, obviously traveling 14 hours on a plane from Bosnia, 9 hours time difference, and putting in a monumental display. So I think that started resurrecting the good vibes, if you will, or the better performances, and then they followed it up against Montreal, and it felt like a 100-0 victory. I know that's a little silly, but it was so monumental, or it can be. Look, if they lose here today, it's not irrelevant, that away win, but it will feel like it. You come back home and you've got to build on that. 6 games unbeaten, the win away from home. Only now Toronto haven't won away from home. I think everything looks good for pushing on, but the cliche, you take every game as it comes, one game at a time, and they need to win again here.
Before I go on, and we're going to play Maxime Chanot first. He was the captain of the last match, and there's a recording of he in the locker room addressing the troops. But you talk about a powerful gathering down here on the field at Citi Field. Brian Marwood, who I want to make sure I have his title right, is the managing director of global football for Citi Football Group. He oversees all the satellite teams, starting with Manchester City and the most recent Bahia in Brazil. David Lee was there, sporting director of New York City. Zoran Karnata, he is the Charlotte FC sporting director. Nick Cushing, head coach of New York City. Christian Latanzio, head coach Charlotte, who used to be part of the Citi Football Group. He and Nick trained side by side when Nick was with the women's program, and Christian was assisting Patrick with the elite formation team, the U21 team at Manchester City, and they were all just down at You know what we think when we see conversations like that going on. Would love to know what they were chatting about. But there it was here on July 5th, the first day of the opening of the transfer window when people could come in and play.
Look,
and get signed.
As you say, it was a powerful coming together. And Brian Marwood, obviously, anybody who's got global football in their title, you know that they're powerful. Obviously, global in terms of football, English football, or soccer, I should say. It is global. It's pretty much every country in the world. If you said global American football, there's only 7 countries who play, or global baseball, there's 12 countries that play it. Some global football, over 200 countries play it, and that's in his job description. That's not bad for him. Not bad for an ex-Hull City player.
Well, he's here tonight to watch New York City. One of his clubs play Charlotte FC with one of his former employees, Christian Latanzio, who has not lost to Nick Cushing. It's 3-0 against Cushing and New York City. But we go back to the Montreal game and Maxime Chenot pregame. There he is.
We spoke every week after week. We know tactics, technique. Okay, we know we set with that. Now it's all about the heart, guys. Like what Nick said. We can't drop one anymore. We have to understand again and again what this logo means. I don't want to speak about playoff, but we're away from playoff. The first time in 8 years. And I don't want to be part of this team who's not been qualifying playoff. It all goes with a heart. It all goes up being your opponent. We ready for that? Is how bad do you want that? Guys, it's not yet. We have to show on the pitch. From first minute, keep on your midfield with Alfredo. The same in the defense. Striker, we score goals. We do it together. It's a battle. It's them or it's us. Okay, guys? We start from minute 1 now. Let's go on 3. 1, 2, 3. Wait! Let's go!
I don't know about you, but I'm ready to play. I thought that was fantastic. He spoke to everyone in his own way, and the captain of the match. And the thing that stands out to me, Matty, and I used to experience this on the collegiate level because it's generally you have a player for 4 years, 5 sometimes, and when they're seniors, their last year of eligibility, as it gets closer, and he talked about not qualifying for the playoffs. He's 33 years old. Still has a couple of years left on his contract, but you never know as you get older, when your last opportunity to play in the postseason is. And that's the way it always was near the end for the seniors. It was almost like you want to play for them. You really want to play for them.
And I've been lucky enough to be playing at 33, and you do see the end in sight. You don't want it to come, of course, but you know it's inevitable. It has to come. And look, that was incredibly basic, that speech, and that's not disparaging at all. That is what you need. It's got nothing, football most of the time has got nothing to do with formations, tactics, personnel. If you've got the heart, the desire, and the willingness to outfight and outbattle your opponent, you're halfway, 60, 70% there. You really are. I think it's so very important. Pretty much every head coach, manager ever had, the last thing he would say was, you've got to outfight, outwork, outbattle your opponent before the football can come to the fore. Because if your opponent could be inferior to you, but if they work harder, they're going to make your life very difficult.
And I don't think you'd consider Matthias Pellegrini a striker, but he's a forward player. He's a winger, and he got his first goal in a New York City FC uniform, and it was the game winner. It looked like this and sounded like this on our network, New York City FC Network.
New York City has it on the left. Overlapping Coufret. He's looking to find a target. It's a first-time shot by Matthias Pellegrini, and a goal! Full volley, left-footed sidewinder! Matthias Pellegrini, mobbed by his teammates. It came in the 33rd minute. New York City able to take the 1-0 lead on CF Montreal, and this time Coufret did overlap and puts in a really valuable, accurate service, maybe a little bit behind Pellegrini, who is able to adjust, and, well, quite a finish.
Well, he got his first assist for NYCFC last game away at Portland. He gets his first goal in MLS for NYCFC here tonight. And the way that Coufret firstly overlaps but then just stands it up, it's just begging. If you're an on-running Keaton Parks, you head it into the top corner. It was Pellegrini, and as you said, it's a little bit behind him, so he has to swivel, he has to meet it on the volley, but it's a terrific finish from Pellegrini.
So 1 assist and 1 goal in his New York City FC career, Matthias Pellegrini. which leads me, and then I really want you to listen to this closely. It's from Nick Cushing this week. Part of our pregame show coming up at 7:15 on the network. And he has been so supportive of Pellegrini throughout, really starting in preseason. And so I really wanted to just discuss the faith that he continues to have in Pellegrini. Listen up.
Mateus has worked incredibly hard since he's came here. Pre-season, he probably was the hardest worker in pre-season for me. And I think that was the reason why he started to nick small injuries, because he's not played so many minutes over the past 2 seasons because of his own situation. He didn't play so much when we brought him in last year in the back end of the season. So now, a real desire, but not so much robustness in you. You become vulnerable for little injuries. And that was the reason why he found himself out the team at times. He said to me in the week, he said, I want to I want to contribute for the team, but I want to score. I want to be an impact player. I want to make sure that my impact on the team helps us win. And that's the only way you're going to do that is with assists and goals in his position. And, he was happy with the assist at Portland, but he really wanted to score a goal. And I actually said to him the night before the game, I said, you will score tomorrow, because I'm a firm believer in life, you get paid back for what you put in. And this guy puts in an incredible amount of commitment and an incredible amount of work. And, I thought he'd score, but I wasn't so sure he would score in the way that he did.
His last goal was for Independiente at the end of last summer. And then he had only one other goal in MLS with Inter Miami. So it's not like he's been prolific, but you see it, which is interesting. I mean, if he starts scoring goals, that would be against what's happened to him as a professional over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think what we got to understand is he's still young. If he was 29 and he hasn't scored goals over 7 seasons, then it's pretty difficult to vouch for somebody that hasn't done it over a long period of time. But he's still young. He's still learning his game. He's probably had an unfortunate period to his career where he didn't play enough football in a real crucial part with the Miami Independiente. And, we see huge potential in him.
And that's New York City FC head coach Nick Cushing. We're from Citi Field live in Flushing, Queens, part of NYCFC pregame live as New York City plays host to Charlotte. But we're spending a lot of time on Pellegrini because the coach has had faith in him, despite the fact he has not scored or assisted or contributed to goals maybe as consistently as he and the staff would have liked. So what did you think of all those comments there? And Pellegrini is starting over Gabby Pereira tonight because Gabby Pereira is 100% fit, but Pellegrini will get the start.
I certainly know with Nick Cushing, he puts a huge onus on what he sees in terms of effort on the training ground. I think we've heard him say it about Matt Freese, Stephen Turnbull, now Pellegrini. Look, the output, the productivity that we've seen from Pellegrini before Portland was non-existent. He is a player that NYCFC are paying nearly $1 million a year for. I wouldn't be picking somebody who's an attacking player who doesn't score and doesn't assist. But what Nick Cushing sees is that desire, the hunger, the drive, the willingness to work every day in training. And look, Nick Cushing sees Pellegrini way more than I do. I wouldn't have played Pellegrini as much as Nick Cushing did because I've seen the games and the lack of quality, the lack of productivity. But look, Nick Cushing has been proved right. I'm wrong. Nick Cushing is right. Goal, assist in the last 2 games. And he's a good character as well, Pellegrini. It shouldn't matter, but for me, he's somebody who comes to the back of the plane when we fly with the team and always says hello to me, yourself, to Roberto, to Ariel. It's not a big deal, but it's nice to see. He's a decent human being. He earns a lot of money. He's a rich man. He could easily just, give us a face palm and not deal with us. But he seems like a genuine character, and I'm really pleased that he's starting to produce. Look, he's somebody who at 17, 18, and for Estudiantes, not Independiente, as you guys were saying, Estudiantes, he was magnificent as a young kid, as a 17, 18-year-old. Inter Miami paid, $6-8 million for him, and it didn't work. He is still young. He is still 23, but also that's old. Wayne Rooney had played in the Premier League for 7 years then. Michael Owen had played in the Premier League for 6 years then. So he's not a youngster. He's young in terms of how many games he's played because he hasn't fulfilled that potential yet. But maybe now he will start to.
Now, another person that's young in his position is Nick Cushing. less than 40 years old. And he was the head coach for Manchester City on the women's side for 7 years. So it's not like he hasn't been a manager before. But when you're 11 games without a win and you're managing in New York City, you're managing for a club that won MLS Cup just a couple of seasons earlier, you wonder how he feels, at least I did, after the full-time whistle was sounded after the victory against Montreal.
Because I fully believe and I had full confidence that we would win football games. I already prepared myself in my head because I know we're so close that if we win the game, just take it as it is, because, you know, what we can't do is and I say this to the guys, let's not celebrate this like we've won MLS Cup. We've won one game after not winning in 11. So, yeah, enjoy it. Of course, be really pleased with winning at a real difficult place on the road and getting our first road win. But understand that it means nothing if we don't win against Charlotte. If we don't turn our home form back into wins, then we don't give ourselves a chance of climbing up the league and getting back to where we believe we should be.
So it means nothing if we don't get the win against Charlotte. That's tonight. It's home, and I know he and the rest of the team, they want to attain that home advantage, that dominance, which they've lost this year.
Yeah, they have, and we spoke about it. There's no point in winning away from home if you then come back home and you lose to a team like Charlotte. You know, Charlotte are a team who've conceded more goals than anybody else in MLS, apart from Atlanta. They've both conceded 35. They ship goals. They're very porous defensively. It should be here, maybe not quite for the taking, but they should be very desirous, of course, of the 3 points, and they should be the better team as well. Let's see how they react to that away win, because sometimes you get that win after a long spell without a win and you breathe a sigh of relief and you almost switch off. It's almost staying absolutely in the moment and staying very attuned to this game now. I think it's lucky that it comes very quickly after that away win.
Here at Citi Field, Matty, 2-1 is the record. Overall, in MLS play here at Citi Field in Queens, New York City with a record of 4 wins, 1 loss, and a couple of draws. Home overall this year, 4-2-3. So that's where you see normally that record and the points gained at home are superior to that for New York City FC. If you look closely, you could see New York City warming up. They're up on a big scoreboard. That's Maxime Chenot, the captain, with James Sands away. And, you know, I would think very seriously and closely about letting Chenot keep the armband the rest of the way. And I don't want to just say I'm impacted by what he said before the last game, but I think more so because of his more senior status and what it means to him. Not that it doesn't mean as much to James Sands, but something about the way he's played recently and then the way he conducted himself before the game.
Absolutely. I can't disagree with that. I think he's a more vociferous character. I think that he's almost more of a born leader than James Sands. James Sands leads by example rather than by his words. I don't know. I'm not down there on the field, but you can normally tell by body language, by actions, obviously by looking to see whether they're speaking, what they're saying to teammates. I think Maxime Chenot is the better choice for me. I understand why James Sands is the captain. I'm not saying that's a bad choice, but I have to agree with you, that Glenn, that I think Maxime Chenot as well performs better as well when he's the captain. He likes being the leader. He really takes it on. Look, there's always that's
an important point.
Yeah, it
really is.
Look, there has to be 11 leaders out there. It doesn't matter who's got the armband, but Chenot he's a born leader and he enjoys being a captain. I think you can see it.
The starting lineups are out, and you can see the New York City lineup, if you're watching, scrolling along the bottom. Just one change, Richie Ledesma for Santi Rodriguez. Santi not available, suspended due to yellow card accumulation. The captain on the Charlotte side of the starting lineup, Ashley Westwood. And on the bench, note Scott Arfield. Those two played together at one time at Burnley, I think, right?
Yeah.
And Arfield is a transfer who's been training with the team, and he's first eligible to play today. This is the first day the window's open. It closes August 2nd. I'm not sure if we'll see Arfield, but Westwood has certainly made a difference.
Yeah, look, Westwood's a really good player. You don't play in the Premier League for a number of years without being very good, without being very proficient. I thought it took him a little while to get used to what Lattanzio wanted, what is expected of him as a leader, as a central midfield player in MLS. But look, he's a very, very good player, and so is Scott Arfield. I think his last club was Rangers, Glasgow Rangers,
yes,
obviously, yeah. Scott Arfield. But boy, I can't see him playing too many minutes today if he's only just made the transfer over. Flight, of course, getting used to time zones, etc., etc. But those two, very, very impressive central midfielders.
No shocks really in the Charlotte lineup. I don't have it to scroll for you, but Enzo Capetti is in the lineup. He had a brace against New York City in Charlotte's 3-2 win down in North Carolina earlier in the year. 2 of his 4 total goals on the season. So Capetti took advantage of New York City.
Yeah, look, I'm incredibly surprised he's only scored 4. I work Argentine Premier League games, and Enzo Capetti played for Racing, and he was magnificent. I compared him, I think, in the last game to Tati Castellanos in terms of that endeavour, trying to make life difficult for the opposition defences, but also being a goal scorer. And I'm so incredibly surprised he's only got 4. Maybe they're not just providing him with enough opportunities. Normally at Racing, give him an opportunity or 2 and he would score.
If you are watching this, you could see, you might say in your picture, man, that scoreboard is huge out there. Well, you know what? It is. It's absolutely enormous. So there's a nice picture of Gabby Peretta, who is on the bench at the beginning of the day. We're going to close by just going through. There have been a few transactions. The first thing, Keaton Parks is up on that board every now and then, too. Parks is staying. But Jackson Ewell, San Jose Earthquakes, was added to the U.S. men's national team roster for the Gold Cup when Alan Senora was injured. And there was some speculation, just not within the club, but that Parks might be the one. He was on the provisional roster. And you wonder if you have to figure New York City, whether he was invited or not, has to be happy that he remains in the New York City midfield. He'll get the start tonight. Ian Harks, our friend John Harks' son, he's 28 years old. How did that happen? Anyway, he's been playing at Dundee. He's going to next be playing for the New England Revolution. That transaction completed today. And Andrew Gutmann, who I think we've enjoyed watching play for the Red Bulls and then Atlanta United, he's on his way to Colorado. Whew, I'm a Robin Fraser fan, but poor guy, he's leaving Atlanta. And Atlanta's getting $400,000 GAM and an international roster spot. And then the trade that I don't have right in front of me, it was, Mahala Opoku is, and you might have watched him, LAFC, LA Galaxy last night, the El Tráfico, which was played at the Rose Bowl, 82,000 plus, unbelievable. But Opoku has been sent to Montreal, and LAFC get $1.75 million in GAM back, which sounds incredible to me. Opoku, I think he's about to turn 22, or he just turned 22, and has not been particularly productive. Maybe not up to that monetary standard anyway. But
no, he hasn't. 7 goals last season. I think only maybe 1 or 2 this season. That's an awful lot of money, but you're spending the money on potential, obviously, not what he's done previously. Yeah. Still young, as you say, but yes. He needs to produce. There needs to be a high productivity coming from him for that amount of money. We don't know whether that's all up front or whether it be staggered over 23, 24, sure. 2023, 24, 25, who knows. But even still, it's a lot of money.
It is. And well, that's going to do it for us. But I did stay up, and to see 82,000 people at a soccer match was pretty cool last night. That Rose Bowl environment is wild. And the Galaxy defeating LAFC 2-1, which was a bit of a shocker. Ricky Pooch, he by far the best player on the pitch. Wasn't even close, actually, as it turned out. I haven't seen much of him yet, but last night he got it done.
Look, I'll say he's too good for the league. Certainly his talent that we saw at Barcelona, he shouldn't be here in MLS. I was surprised that he made the transition, but he hasn't. He hasn't been consistent enough. We haven't seen enough of him. But again, LA Galaxy themselves have been very inconsistent.
All right. Well, that's Matty Lawrence. I'm Glenn Crooks. Chris Sakonis also with us. And we've just about come close to our live commentary. We get like 5 minutes to breathe, and then we'll start. It's at 7:15 Eastern. on the New York City FC Network, NYCFC app. If you have the app, you can just listen to it there, and also the TuneIn app. And today, once I believe they start at the bottom of the hour at 7:30, if you're watching the match on Apple, you can listen to us on the drop-down feature for the English hometown commentary. That's us because we're at Citi Field tonight. Citi Field, where is it? There it is, right there. Soccer tonight, no baseball. There is some Met stuff up there. Just a few banners because they haven't won much over the years. Sorry, Matty. Matty and his family Met fans. My family's Met fans. I'm a Yankee fan, though, so there you have it. All right, folks, thanks so much for joining us, and enjoy the game, everybody.